Welcome to PicMash. Today, I want you to just picture something in your mind's eye for a second.
Okay, set the scene.
So, you are standing in the middle of a completely desolate, freezing Arctic wasteland. There's literally nothing but shifting, crushed white ice in every single direction.
Sounds terrifying, honestly.
Right. And right there, half buried in the frozen slush, you find a camera.
Wow.
Yeah. And inside that camera are these heavy copper cylinders, and they contain undeveloped film that has been trapped in this deep freeze for exactly 33 years.
It's just wild to even think about.
It is. I mean, you are basically holding a frozen time capsule that contains the final terrifying moments of a doomed expedition captured by the victims themselves.
And, when that film was finally extracted and developed, it fundamentally altered photographic history. I mean, it provided this raw visual window into a tragedy that had baffled the whole world for an entire generation.
Exactly. So today on the channel, we are doing a deep dive into the 1897 Andree Arctic balloon expedition.
This is such an intense story.
It really is. It's this narrative built on fierce national pride, blinding hubris, just agonizing physical struggle, and an enduring medical mystery. Plus, a literal miracle of chemical engineering to actually save those photographs.
The scale of what these three men endured out there on that ice is, it's something that genuinely challenges our basic understanding of human limits.
Absolutely. So, where do we even begin?
Well, to really grasp why three highly educated men ended up marooned in the Arctic Circle, you have to look at the sort of psychological landscape of the late 19th century.
Right, the whole heroic age of exploration thing.
Exactly. Hitting the North Pole wasn't just like a neat scientific endeavor. It was the ultimate metric of a nation's geopolitical prestige.
So everyone wanted to be first.
Oh, yeah. And Sweden in particular was feeling immense pressure to assert its dominance. Specifically, they wanted to beat their neighbor, Norway, to the pole.
Okay, so enter Salomon August Andrée. He's this 42-year-old engineer at the Swedish Patent Office, right?
That's him.
And he decides to bypass the traditional methods entirely. He pitches an idea that, for 1897, honestly sounds almost like science fiction. It really does. He proposes basically ignoring the lethal, jagged ice altogether and just flying directly over the North Pole in a massive hydrogen balloon.
Right, his whole vision relied on prevailing southerly winds. The plan was to launch from the Svalbard archipelago, let the wind carry the balloon right over the pole, and just touch down in Russia, Canada, or Alaska.
Just casually float over the most dangerous terrain on Earth?
Pretty much. And because Andree was a respected engineer, he actually secured backing from the absolute pinnacle of Swedish society. We're talking King Oscar II and the inventor Alfred Nobel.
Wow. Okay, I need to pause on the engineering here, though, because, if you look at the schematics for this balloon, which they called the Örnen, or the Eagle, the whole mission was basically mathematically doomed before it even left Paris.
Oh, entirely. The design flaws were glaring.
They built this massive envelope out of a multi-layered Chinese silk, but silk and hydrogen do not mix well, do they?
No, not at all. Hydrogen is the smallest atom in the universe. Containing it is a nightmare even for modern engineers, let alone in 1897.
Right.
So the balloon was constructed by stitching together these massive panels of silk. And even though they coated the fabric with layers of varnish to seal it, the sheer number of needle holes created thousands of microscopic escape routes.
Like a giant sieve.
Basically, yeah. During testing, those seams bled hydrogen at a rate that just far exceeded Andree's initial calculations.
Okay, wait, I'm also confused about his steering mechanism, because a balloon usually just goes wherever the wind blows, right? At the exact speed of the wind.
That's how free-floating balloons work, yes.
But Andree claimed he could actually steer this thing. How are you supposed to steer a balloon that's just floating in the current?
It comes down to creating a speed differential.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, if you are floating at the exact speed of the wind, you can't use sails. Yeah. Because from the perspective of the balloon, there is zero wind. The air around you feels totally still.
Oh, right. Because you're moving with it.
Exactly. So Andree designed this incredibly heavy, complex drag rope system. The whole concept was to trail thousands of pounds of rope along the surface of the ice far below the balloon.
Sounds heavy.
Very heavy. And the friction of dragging those ropes across the ice would slow the balloon down just enough so that it was moving slower than the wind itself.
Okay. And once the balloon is moving slower than the wind, you suddenly have a breeze hitting the balloon, which means you can hoist sails to, angle your trajectory.
Yes, that was the theory anyway.
but in practice.
In practice, the drag ropes were a catastrophic liability. I mean, during tests, the immense friction caused the ropes to constantly catch on obstacles. They would twist violently under all that tension.
Which sounds incredibly dangerous.
It was. They would actually completely unscrew themselves from their mountings on the balloon's gondola.
So you have a balloon that literally cannot retain its lifting gas, paired with a steering mechanism that just tears itself apart. And the crazy thing is, the scientific community knew this. Like Nils Ekholm, who was a meteorologist and Andree's original crewmate, he looked at the pressure data and the leakage rates, realized they would inevitably crash into the ice, and he just resigned.
Which was the only logical choice. But Andree just replaced him. He brought in two young, brilliant, but very inexperienced men, Knut Frænkel, a 26-year-old engineer, and Nils Strindberg, who was a 24-year-old physics student and specialized photographer.
It reminds me of like the modern billionaire space races or these high-profile tech startups today, where the fear of bad PR and the pressure from elite investors causes highly intelligent people to completely ignore glaring safety mathematics.
Oh, definitely. It is a textbook example of planned continuation bias.
Right, where you just can't stop the train once it's moving.
Exactly. It's a cognitive phenomenon where people refuse to abandon a failing plan because the social or financial cost of quitting just feels heavier than the physical risk of continuing.
And Andree had the king's money. He had Alfred Nobel's backing.
The whole international press was watching him. So that fear of public humiliation created this blind momentum that completely overrode basic survival mathematics.
And that cognitive bias leads us directly to Danes Island, Svalbard, on July 11th, 1897, 1:55 p.m., the launch of the Eagle.
And the mechanical failure is almost instantaneous.
It's wild. What exactly happened?
The very second the balloon clears the hangar and enters the wind, the drag ropes behave exactly as Ekholm warned. They drag, they twist, they catch, and they just completely unscrew from the gondola.
Oh my God. So in a fraction of a second, they lose, 530 kilograms of weight?
Yes, and those ropes were vital ballast.
Right, so the balloon just shoots up.
The physics of buoyancy take over violently. Stripped of half a ton of weight, the balloon rockets upward. But the violent release of tension also causes the gondola to plunge momentarily toward the freezing water.
Wait, so they almost crashed into the ocean immediately?
They almost did. To avoid hitting the sea, the crew scrambles and manually dumps an additional 210 kilograms of sand overboard.
So within 2 minutes of liftoff, they have dumped over 700 kilograms of weight. They have 0 drag ropes left.
Which means they have 0 steering capability.
I mean, it's basically like driving a car where the steering wheel pops off the second you hit the highway. Except, you're suspended in the sky, slowly sinking into a frozen desert. They are essentially riding an uncontrollable, leaking elevator at this point.
What's fascinating here is the cruel irony of it all. The very system meant to give them control the heavy drag ropes was the exact thing that doomed them upon liftoff. And because they dumped all that sand, the Eagle shoots to a much higher altitude.
And higher altitude means lower pressure, right?
Exactly. Up there, the atmospheric pressure is significantly lower. So the hydrogen inside the balloon expands, forcing the gas out of those thousands of needle holes at a really aggressively accelerated rate.
So the moment they lost that lifting gas, they were basically introduced to the reality of the Arctic ice pack. The terrain they were trying to float over was now the only thing keeping them from drowning.
It forced an immediate, brutal shift in their entire survival strategy. Because as the balloon loses gas, it cools, gets heavier, and starts sinking.
And this lasted for days, didn't it?
For 65 hours, they endure this terrifying cycle. The gondola crashes into the jagged ice, bounces back up into the freezing fog, drifts for a few miles, and then just smashes into the ice again.
That sounds like absolute torture.
Finally, on July 14th, at latitude 82 degrees 56 minutes north, the Eagle loses the last of its lift and grounds permanently.
So they survived the crash without any major injuries, which is lucky. But the reality is they're now grounded thousands of miles from civilization, just sitting on top of a shifting, frozen ocean.
Right, so they unpack their sledges and decide to march south, hoping to reach emergency supply depots on Franz Josef Land or Svalbard.
And we have to talk about their gear because they were not ready for a hike.
Their equipment was completely unsuited for what they were about to attempt. They had smooth leather boots and standard wool clothing.
In the Arctic summer, which, the summer ice pack isn't just a flat skating rink.
No, not at all. It is a chaotic landscape of deep, freezing slush, hidden meltwater channels, and these massive pressure ridges where shifting ice flows crush against each other.
Just pushing up walls of jagged ice everywhere.
Exactly.
Imagine trying to pull a sledge weighing hundreds of pounds over a 2-story wall of slippery, crushed ice, wearing smooth leather boots that are just constantly soaking wet.
It is physical attrition at its most extreme. But the geography beneath them was actually hiding an even crueler mechanism.
The drift.
Yes, the transpolar drift stream. You see, the Arctic ice pack is essentially a floating skin resting on top of the ocean. Driven by Siberian river runoff and deep ocean currents, this entire massive sheet of ice is in constant motion.
So you have 3 men burning thousands of calories, pulling these absurdly heavy sledges southward through the freezing slush for weeks.
Right.
And then Nils Strindberg takes a celestial reading to check their coordinates, and he realizes that the ocean current is pushing the ice pack northward faster than they are walking south.
It is the ultimate psychological torture. I mean, you expend every ounce of energy you have only to discover you are geographically further away from rescue than when you woke up.
It's honestly like walking down a downward moving escalator, but the escalator is made of freezing slush, and you're dragging a refrigerator behind you.
That is a very accurate way to picture it.
The fundamental mechanics of your environment just guarantee you will move backward. Yet, amidst this absolute despair, Strindberg keeps taking out his heavy camera.
He does.
Like he's documenting the ruined balloon, the capsized sledges, their hunts for polar bears. I have to ask why. If you know the math is completely against you, why burn your precious vanishing calories setting up a heavy tripod?
It really goes beyond taking photographs for science.
Yeah.
You know, Strindberg was meticulously writing letters to his fiancée, Anna Charlier, in coded shorthand. He was documenting the steady decay of their resources.
So he knew they weren't making it back.
He recognized that their chances of survival were collapsing, and he was actively constructing a record. He was ensuring that if the Arctic consumed them, it wouldn't erase the truth of their struggle.
Wow. And that struggle eventually forces a concession, doesn't it? Because by October 1897, after nearly 3 months of fighting this drift stream, the men are just frostbitten, exhausted, and battling systemic illness.
Yes, and the ice pack finally drifts them into solid land. It's a desolate, glacier-covered rock called Kitoya, or White Island.
Which, reaching land, should have been their salvation.
It really should have. They construct a secure camp out of canvas and snow, and then the record simply stops.
Just abruptly.
Completely. Within days of establishing this final camp, all 3 men perish. Andree's meticulous diary entries fade out entirely in October.
And this is where the medical mystery really begins for me, because when their camp was finally discovered decades later, investigators found they had functional rifles, right?
Rifles, ammunition, heavy clothing.
And ample food reserves, including fresh polar bear meat. So what actually killed them?
Well, the scientific debate has raged for decades. One leading theory is trichinosis.
From the bears.
Exactly. Polar bear meat is notoriously infected with trichinella parasites. If consumed undercooked, these parasites migrate into the muscle tissue, causing excruciating pain, fever, severe weakness, and eventually death.
Okay, but I struggle with the timeline on that one. Because trichinosis takes weeks to incapacitate a person fully.
That's a valid point. Yeah.
Right. Like if they were already suffering from it on the ice, how did they have the strength to haul hundreds of pounds of gear onto the island and build a fortified camp?
That precise timeline discrepancy is what leads to the second major theory, which is carbon monoxide poisoning.
Ah, the stove.
Yes. They relied on a pressurized Primus stove to melt ice for drinking water and to cook. Now, out on the open ice pack, their makeshift shelters were drafty. Lots of airflow.
But on Fitoya, they built a much tighter, enclosed snow tent.
Exactly. And that completely changes the geometry of their environment.
If you fire up a kerosene stove inside an unventilated snow cave, the stove consumes the oxygen and pumps out carbon monoxide.
It's an invisible, odorless gas. They could have simply fallen asleep in a warm tent and suffocated without ever realizing they were in danger.
See, to me, that fits the suddenness of their deaths perfectly.
There are other theories too. Some point to vitamin A toxicity from consuming polar bear liver, which causes massive neurological damage, or a combination of extreme exposure, severe dehydration, and perhaps even lead poisoning from the soldering on their tinned food.
I really push back on the exposure theory, though.
Why is that?
Well, if they survived 3 whole months completely exposed on a wet, freezing, moving ice floe, Why would they suddenly drop dead from the cold just days after finally building a solid, windproof shelter? To me, the enclosed nature of that final tent points directly to an environmental hazard they introduced themselves, like the stove.
The environmental shift is definitely the critical factor. The cruel irony is that building a better shelter might be exactly what killed them. But, whatever the mechanism of their death, the Arctic just swallowed the evidence.
The men were frozen in place, the snow buried their camp, and the world just completely forgot about them. The mystery endured for 33 years.
Until August 6th, 1930.
Right. Fast forward to 1930. A Norwegian sealing vessel, the Brattvåg, stops at Kvituya to hunt walruses. And global weather patterns had produced this unusually warm summer, melting back the ice sheet that typically covered the whole island.
For the first time in over 3 decades, the sun hit that final camp.
That must have been a surreal discovery for those sailors.
Oh, unimaginable. The sealers found the remains of the 3 explorers, their journals, their ruined scientific instruments, and crucially, Nils Strindberg's copper cylinders containing rolls of exposed, undeveloped film.
And the news was just a massive global sensation. When the remains were returned to Stockholm on October 5th, 1930, it triggered one of the most grandiose manifestations of national mourning in Swedish history.
It was a huge event. But the real miracle was happening quietly inside a dark room at the Royal Institute of Technology, handled by a docent and photographer named John Hertzberg.
Hertzberg was essentially handed an impossible chemistry problem. He had to extract latent images from photographing emulsion that had endured 33 years of freezing, thawing, and water submersion.
It's frankly unbelievable that he got anything at all.
Hold on, I need you to explain this to me because film emulsion is an organic material, isn't it? It's essentially gelatin.
Yes, that's correct.
So if you freeze and thaw organic matter for over 3 decades, the expansion of the ice crystals alone should completely shred the cellular structure. How did 33 years of ice and water not just dissolve the film entirely?
You are exactly right about the destructive mechanics of ice. Photographic emulsion is a layer of animal protein gelatin suspending microscopic silver halide crystals. Under normal circumstances, 33 years of moisture and freezing would rot the protein away entirely, destroying the silver crystals along with it.
So how on earth could he save it? I just don't understand how any chemical process could bring that back.
Well, Hertzberg realized he couldn't just drop the film into a standard developer, or the weakened gelatin would simply wash right off the celluloid backing.
Oh, it would just disintegrate.
Exactly. So he utilized specialized chemical baths containing potassium dichromate.
Potassium dichromate?
Yes. It acts as a tanning or hardening agent. It chemically cross-links the gelatin proteins, fundamentally reinforcing the organic matrix so that it becomes rigid again.
So he effectively froze the surviving structural integrity in place before the developing chemicals could dissolve what was left.
Precisely. By hardening the emulsion first, he allowed the developing agents to slowly react with the silver halide without washing the image away.
That is brilliant.
It really is. Against all odds of chemistry and time, Hertzberg successfully coaxed 93 out of 240 exposures back into existence.
93 photographs, surviving for 1/3 of a century in the ice. It is a staggering achievement in material science and photographic restoration.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really provided the world with the first true found footage narrative.
Yeah, these weren't staged portraits.
Not at all. They were raw, accidental documents of immense human suffering and endurance left by the victims in the final weeks of their lives. I mean, we see the ruined balloon deflated on the ice. We see the men hauling those massive sledges across the pressure ridges.
You look at those photographs today and you can just see the profound exhaustion in their posture. It totally recontextualizes the whole expedition for me.
How so?
Well, it strips away the hubris of the initial launch. You stop thinking about the foolish balloon and the royal funding, and it forces you to confront their raw humanity.
It bridges a 33-year gap of silence, allowing the men to finally testify to what they actually endured out there.
Yeah. And I want you to just think about Nils Strindberg out there on the ice pack. Think about the mechanical effort required just to set up a camera in freezing temperatures when you are quite literally starving to death.
It takes incredible willpower.
It does. And he wasn't taking those photos for a scientific journal anymore. He knew the odds. He was purposefully constructing a ghost story, whispering a visual message into the ice, desperately hoping someone someday would find it and decode what they had gone through.
It really challenges us to consider what we value enough to preserve when everything else is slipping away.
It truly does. In a modern era where we constantly document every mundane detail of our lives into the cloud without a second thought, it forces a heavy question. When the situation becomes truly dire and survival is no longer an option, who are you actually saving your memories for?
That is something to think about.
Definitely something to mull over. We want to thank all of you for exploring this frozen mystery with us today on the PicMash channel. If you were fascinated by the science, the survival mechanics, and the incredible history we unpacked today, please hit the like button and subscribe to PicMash for more incredible historical deep dives and beautifully restored archival stories. We'll see you on the next deep dive.